The Auditor-General provides assurance to Parliament on the accountability and performance of the Victorian public sector. The Auditor-General conducts financial audits and performance audits and reports on the results of these audits to Parliament. On the 9th of December 2015, the Acting Auditor-General tabled his performance audit report, East-West Link Project. The East-West Link Project was to be one of the largest, most complex and costly transport infrastructure projects ever undertaken in Australia. It was terminated in June 2015 with more than $1.1 billion paid, or expected to be paid, by the state for little tangible benefit. This cost will be partially offset by proceeds from the sale of properties acquired for the project, which the Department of Treasury and Finance, or DTF, estimates are worth $320 million. The audit found flawed advice to government on the project and that signing the contract when there was a legal challenge to the project planning approval decision exposed the state to additional risk. The final termination cost was lower than the cost of terminating under the project contract. However, the decision to terminate was made without full consideration of the merits of completing the project, and the validity of cost reimbursed by the state were not fully verified. If it had proceeded, the entire East-West Link project would have cost more than $22.8 billion in nominal terms. The government decided to go ahead with the eastern section as stage 1 of the project in 2013 and finalised a public-private partnership contract with East West Connect, or EWC, in late September 2014 to finance, design, construct, operate and maintain the road. The contract was signed before the November 2014 state election. Following the election, the new government instructed EWC to suspend work and reached agreement to terminate the project in June 2015. The full project included an 18-kilometre cross-city road connecting the Eastern Freeway at Hoddle Street to CityLink, the Port of Melbourne precinct and the Western Ring Road at Sunshine West. The main component of the eastern section, Stage 1, was a new tolled motorway linking Hoddle Street and CityLink, mainly via tunnel. The audit examined whether the state effectively managed the East-West Link project by assessing the total costs of the project, appropriateness of advice supporting key project decisions, and lessons for future major projects. The audit covered 10 departments and agencies involved in the project planning, procurement and termination over more than 3 years from October 2011 to June 2015. The project was terminated in June 2015 with more than $1.1 billion paid or expected to be paid by the state. This covered the planning, development, procurement and termination of the project and will be partially offset by future sale proceeds from properties acquired for the project. DTF estimates that these properties can be resold for $320 million. The main areas of expenditure were for property acquisitions and termination. The termination settlement costs of around $642 million comprise $424 million paid to EWC as reimbursement for project costs incurred and around $218 million on settling an arrangement taken over by the state as part of the termination relating to the financing risks of the project. Arrangements for tracking costs on the eastern section were mostly comprehensive and robust. However, although only minimal costs were incurred on the western section, there was no whole-of-project monitoring and reporting on costs. DTF should provide guidance to support whole-of-project cost tracking for major projects across stages and agencies. This figure shows the funding sources and flows for Stage 1 Eastern Section. The majority of the costs over the full lifespan of the eastern section were to be met by tolls on users of the road. The business case is a critical step in any major project, but in this case it did not provide a sound basis for prioritising the eastern section over other sections of the road, relied heavily on the inclusion of wider economic benefits to demonstrate the merit of the proposed investment, did not include sufficient information and evidence to demonstrate the accuracy and plausibility of the assumed wider economic benefits and traffic modelling, and did not adequately address significant issues raised by peer reviewers in relation to both the traffic modelling and wider economic benefits. DTF should improve its business case development guidance and quality assurance over key inputs. The procurement process was robust and met the government's target timeline. Advice to government in the lead-up to contract signing did not sufficiently emphasise the benefits of delaying contract signing to mitigate risks posed by an unresolved legal challenge to the project planning approval decision. Signing the contract in these circumstances exposed the state to greater cost and risk. DTF should develop minimum standards and enhance guidance to manage concurrent planning, scoping and procurement risks. The advice to the new government on the merits of terminating the project did not adequately examine the costs, risks or benefits of completing it. The final termination agreements involved a different settlement outcome to that initially announced by government, based on sound advice and delivered a better outcome for the state. The total cost of the termination settlement will be around $642 million, depending on the final cost of settling an arrangement taken over by the state, relating to the financing risks on the project. This is less than what would have been payable under the contract. The state accepted EWC's refusal to allow access to the records of its related party contractors. This meant that the validity of project costs reimbursed by the state could not be fully verified and created a risk that these related parties had a windfall gain. Weaknesses in the Order Act 1994 mean that VAGO could not obtain the information required to confirm this. DTF should establish guidance for terms of negotiations to require full transparency before private reimbursement. Advice to government over the life of the project did not always meet the frank and fearless standard. This highlights a risk to the integrity of public administration that needs to be addressed. The audit identified instances where advice did not provide clear recommendations or gave too much emphasis to the benefits of approaches in line with the government's known preferred outcome and little emphasis to the analysis and benefits of alternative approaches. The Department of Premier and Cabinet, DPC, and DTF disputed this finding, relying on a narrow interpretation of the Public Administration Act 2004 and the Code of Conduct for Victorian public sector employees. However, the Act seeks a public service which responds to government policy priorities in a manner consistent with public sector values. This means there is sometimes a need to provide advice that a government may not necessarily want to receive. DPC needs to support further guidance to clarify the requirements for frank and fearless public sector advice. The following 3 slides show a series of recommendations that focus on the key areas requiring improvement. DPC and DTF have not accepted the recommendations. The key messages arising from this audit are shown on this slide. The overall message is that the East-West Link project was not managed effectively, due in part to flawed advice that did not always meet the expected standard of being frank and fearless. Relevant audits are listed on this slide. All our reports are available on our website. If you have any questions about this or other reports, or if you have anything else you would like to discuss with us, including ideas for future audit topics, please call us on 03 8601 7000 or contact us via our website.